I already introduced to you and discussed with you and talked with you regarding various aspects of the units in comparative politics that we are going to talk about in this semester. I made you familiar with the various dimensions till now. We'll be beginning with the first unit, of course, as you can see. And then the first unit is all about explaining what comparative politics is. Second is more about political systems and forms of government. Third is about electoral systems. And fourth is about contemporary debates on the nature of the nation state. Right. These are the four major aspects which we already discussed. We had a discussion, we had interesting questions. I also explained to you about various methodologies, that why methodology is important. Now that you are in fifth semester already, also in pol science, why is it important to study something with a specific and a proper methodology, right? That's one. Just give me 1 minute again. Yeah, so when we are going to introduce comparative politics, okay, let's start with the basic questions again, which we touched upon to some extent in previous classes. And today we will see them more in detail. Anything that we explain, first we talk about what it is, how it is, uh, we explain, and do all those things. Anand, are you there? Hello. Anand. Aditi. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, can you please read these 3 points that are mentioned as part of the overview? Can you see them?
Sure, sir.
Yeah.
First, focus of comparative politics. Second, the science of political science. Third, quick history of comparative politics.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry for my sore throat, sir.
Yeah, I just remembered about it. You had told me yesterday, but since randomly I take names, so it's fine. You can relax. Uh, okay, as she just read out, focus of comparative politics, science of comparative politics, and a quick history of comparative politics. Right, these are the 3 things as she just read out. Anand, I was calling you out, you didn't respond. I don't know if you are there or able to listen to me. Unmute yourself if you are there. Please. So these are the 3 things: focus, science, and history. Focus, as in what are we concentrating upon? Right. It's simple language. It's simple terminology. That science is, as I was also mentioning yesterday, the scientific attitude, the scientific spirit. How are we approaching? How are we? I mean, actually, this is also addressing the question of why political science is a science, right? This is also addressing the question of why political science is a science. Then the third one is a quick history of comparative politics, as in what is the historical approach of comparative politics that we are talking about, right? So these are three things: a historical approach, because see, whenever we are talking of comparisons or comparative politics, we are always looking into what has been the historical legacy, right? As I told you, every point that we are going to explain in political science, I will furnish them, provide them with a lot of examples, because without examples, it's no use studying or reading, and also that will help you to understand what it means. Historical, for example, in the international relations, we did this unit on India's foreign policy, right? When we were doing India's foreign policy, uh, there is a historical tradition of India's foreign policy, and each country has its own historical tradition. It's not the same. Every country has its own historical legacy that already creates a ground for comparisons when we are talking about comparative politics and the comparative. Second one, I had already mentioned to you yesterday, we are talking more about a scientific outlook. We are also more talking about a rational way of looking into what it is. Scientific outlook, or even a rational way. Like why it's not just about a theory. It is also about a scientific inquiry. You have to make a sense. I'm audible, right? I'm audible.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great.
Yes, sir.
So it is more also about if anything is making sense and logic of whatever we are studying. That's why comparative, because see, political science includes Indian government and politics, comparative government and politics, public administration, international relations, Indian political thought, Western political thought that you will do in semester 6. But these are all what we call subdisciplines of political science, right? Let me start using the chat board. So when we are talking about each of these subdisciplines of political science, there is a uniqueness, there is a originality, there is a specificity to comparative politics. Why does it, in which way does it give a scientific angle to all these things, right? And that's why it is called as the science of political science, or the scientific inquiry of political science. Focus of comparative politics, that all we are going to see. So moving on to the next one, when we talk about the focus of comparative politics, so what is this focus of comparative politics in a very broad way, in a very general way? Try to understand each of these terms and concepts when we are going with them, and ask me if you don't understand. As you know, political science has always dealt with questions of state and power, right? Arif, are you there?
Yes, sir, I am.
Yeah, can you please read this definition?
Yes, sir, sure. Focus of comparative politics. Internal power structures. Comparative politics doesn't ignore external influences on internal structures, but its ultimate concern is power configurations within our political systems. Karamani 2008-3.
Yeah, that's the referencing of from where this definition is taken. Actually, you all have to be, again, thank you, Arif, for reading it out. You all have to be more careful, again, as you know, especially with this plagiarism policy, the way you even reference when you make a reference, right? That's very important. And this is the year in which he had published this and the page from which it is taken. It's a referencing. So comparative. So let's say one of the focus of comparative politics is internal power structure. It is not just a power structure, because when we speak about international relations, it is more about external. Everything is external. But comparative doesn't mean just that. So as it says, comparative politics does not ignore external. I mean, it considers them. So that's why it's saying it does not ignore them. So it does not ignore external influences on internal structure, but its ultimate concern is power configurations within political systems. So how internally power is being played upon. You are familiar with concept of power and notion of power already in previous semesters, right? So ultimate concern is within a political system, how power is being played upon. So let's say, in other words, if I have to explain power in comparative politics, it would be, so in which way power is being played upon by political system in India versus the way power configuration is being played upon by political system in Kenya. Okay, so these are two different things. Many times they combine. For example, they say that politics, political system, and power has to do a lot with corruption. So corruption is a common factor that's uniting them all. That's what I meant yesterday when I answered one of you had asked me a question. I think Deekshita had asked that why is it important to compare, contrast, classify, etc. This is what we mean by compare, contrast, classify. You are comparing. Comparing means similarities as well as differences, right? And that's why it is important for us to know in which way comparative politics doesn't ignore external influence. Means it keeps in mind, it keeps in its framework what are the external influence, but its ultimate concern is power configuration within political system, right? And then, of course, there are a number of things which one can think of when we are including in the framework of comparative politics. So often simply means studying foreign countries, use of case studies, area specialization need not be explicitly comparative. The editor of our textbook doesn't endorse such an approach. This is more like a comment that is being made upon. Maybe right now it will be difficult for you to understand what is going on here. What we are doing is we are already, just try to understand and listen to what I'm saying. We are already analyzing what comparative politics is. Okay, so it is doing comparisons, but it goes doing something beyond that. Definitely, it involves a lot of rigorous analysis, as we call it. That's the word we call, a lot of rigorous analysis, right? So often simply means studying foreign countries, use of case studies, area specialization need not be explicitly comparative. And this is a comment that is being made. It's basically the same author. He's an Italian political scientist whom we will be referring to in this part of the of your topic today, Daniele Caramani, who is basically going to tell us as to, you know, how are we trying to intrigue ourselves, intriguing analysis. You understand what intriguing analysis? Maybe I'm using hefty words, but I don't have a choice right now. I'll simplify it for you. Maybe in few 2 or 3 slides, you will understand what all this is, because see, all these definitions need to be explained, need to be made more clear, no doubt about it. But right now, just at least listen or think in the direction in which I'm trying to take this discussion. Here comes a more simpler one. Okay. This is a more simpler one here. Probably Rajan, are you there? Hello. Not responding. Okay. Ram. Hello. What are you all doing actually? I don't know.
You are audible, sir.
No, I'm audible, but they are not responding.
Hello? Did you call my name, sir? Sorry, I have been having calls. So,
Yeah, I called your name 15 minutes ago.
oh,
Yeah, can you please, there is a lot of background disturbance. Class is going on. Hello.
okay. I did mute myself. I just unmuted myself.
Yeah, I called out your name, but 15 minutes ago. I don't know where were you.
Oh,
Now I'm
I guess I
randomly.
missed it.
Yeah, but you have to
Sorry,
be
sir.
more careful on what is being done. That's for, I know I don't ask all of you to switch on your videos and all. Otherwise, I'll be forced to start doing that from next classes. I hope you understand. It's not like me speaking and I'm asking all of you every 5 or 10 minutes. I hope you understand. I'll make it more simple. I'll make it more clear for you. Yeah, so Anand, can you read this one now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Focus of comparative politics. A comparative study may focus on a small number of countries, two or more, or it may attempt to incorporate the analysis of a very large range of countries. Countries, in fact, need to be the unit of analysis. Subnational regional political units or supranational units may be the focus.
Okay, thank you. You
Thank you,
can
sir.
mute yourself now. So as he just read out, it may focus on a small number. Now, what is being explained here is, this is all part of the focus of comparative. So when we are talking about nations, countries, it focuses on a small number of countries, or it may attempt to incorporate the analysis of a very large range of countries. So one is very clear, how many countries are you taking into consideration when you are making a comparison? These are simple questions, not very difficult questions. Tell me if you find it more difficult still to understand. This is like, that's why I said it's quite scientific and quantitative and mathematical. You have to be clear, it is 2 countries, 3 countries, 5 countries, 10 countries, and which are those countries? That's also important. Hence, countries need not be the unit of analysis. Subnational, regional, or supranational units may be the focus. So comparative is already assuming that even when we call something a country is consisting, it consists of or comprises a lot of number, a large range or a large number of sub-regional or sub-national, as we call it, or supranational, right? You should be familiar with these terms. Supranational is beyond the nation. Subnational is within the nation. Okay. So each of these sentences are definitely the main part, and I will revise it towards the end. So don't worry, but then you can again ask me something if you don't understand. But these are the main things that comparative does. Fine. This is the first part. The second part is the science of political science. Why is it scientific? I have already explained it to you. You know what the meaning of science is. And this is one subdiscipline of pol science which is closer to it being called a science. Why so? Ram or Brijen, I had called you out. Are you there?
Yes, sir. I'm there.
Okay, fine. Ram, can you read?
Yes, sir. The science of political science. The intent of comparative politics is that of a rigorous scientific and empirical field of study. Description explained and prediction in Carminia 2008. Is political science a science? Do social science differ from natural science? How and why?
Okay, thank you for reading it out. So this is one of the ways of defining, see what science does, as it says here. Intent of comparative politics is that of a rigorous scientific and empirical field of study. Empirical is one that is based on observation of data, data analysis, facts. There is facts and data in front of you and you are analyzing it. And that's why any field of study is called empirical research. That includes description, explanation, and prediction. These are all scientific ways or approaches to scientific ways or approaches to explain why anything may be called as scientific or empirical, right? So now the question arises, is political science a science, right? Do social sciences differ from natural sciences? How and why? Now, these are general questions that are always being asked. I will mention the name of an author here who is very important. And if any of you are curious to know, please make a reference to him. I'm writing his name here on the board, Thomas Kuhn. That's his name. And he had written this very interesting work, The Structure of Scientific Revolutions. Because see, even today when we visit all these science museums, we are always finding science a puzzle, right? So even if social sciences, art subjects like psychology, history, economics, sociology, political science, and natural sciences like physics, chemistry, biology, but still both are called sciences. The difference is between the word natural and social. That's the main thing. And that's where we are coming to the question of why and if and is political science a science, which is being addressed in this part. Now, one of them is already defined here: rigorous, empirical, descriptive, explanatory, and that involves prediction. Any of these words you don't understand, please ask or make a note. I've already explained to you what empirical is, what rigorous scientific is, what descriptive is, explanatory, and prediction. Prediction is like an assumption. You just again recall the projects that you have done till now. You remember all that hypothesis, statement of research, problem. All those hypothesis is nothing but a prediction. If you remember, when we always give feedback to your projects, we tell you that make an assumption and then you are going to prove your assumption true or false. You are predicting something and then you are going to prove how valid or true it is. Right. That's one. And then further, how does Karamani suggest that the political science is a science? As he says, political theory deals with normative questions, which we did in semester 1 actually, like democracy, justice, equality. Comparative politics deals with empirical questions. We'll now and then come up with this word called empirical analysis. Okay, this is a distinction, very, very simple and a beautiful distinction he has drawn here, actually. While political theory is dealing with ethical and normative questions, equality, democracy, justice, but comparative politics is dealing with empirical questions, facts, data analysis, etc. Even though facts, data analysis, observation, even though comparative political scientists are of course concerned also by normative questions, the discipline as such is empirical and value neutral. Okay, so it is like comparative politics also deals with ethics, but the main focus, the main primary concern of comparative politics is that the discipline is empirical and value neutral. Okay, value neutral, like no value judgment. It is, I mean, that's what really makes this a science. Okay, I know this is a kind of a, it's like a big lens, a perspective, a strong view that I'm trying to explain to all of you today. It's a strong viewpoint. Further down when we go, we will see how valid it is. How does it hold true? What are its criticisms? But this is one way of understanding already in a very standardized form what comparative politics is, what it does with these explanations and with these definitions, right? So that's why the questions that are being asked to us, the science of political science, is it possible to create a value-free or neutral political science? You see, already there is a critical inquiry. when we are trying to turn, when we are trying to rotate, when we are trying to project political science in a very scientific way, we are already creating a groundwork of possibility that how much possible it is to create itself as value free or neutral. How neutral can it be? How do we make sure that it doesn't stay biased or prejudiced, right? Is it desirable to create a value free or neutral political science? Why do we desire for it? These are simple questions. Think of these questions for 1 or 2 minutes, actually, all of you. And let me know what you think, what comes to your mind. If you understood these two, one is possibility, the other is desirability. There is a difference between them. It's not like it's easy to say so and so, and then it's easy to do so and so. There are always challenges about it. There are always limitations to it, right? So if you are seeing these two questions here, possibility to create a neutral political science and a desirability to create a neutral political science, or what we are also calling it as being value free. Value free, we are not giving it any value, good or bad, or any of these. Yes, anyone has any comment? You don't have to intellectualize it. You can answer what comes to your mind. Just see if you understand what it is. You think there should be a desirability to create it, then how will it be helpful? Yes.
Sir, value free, I don't think if there are no values, then there's no point in governing, because then there wouldn't be an improvement or betterment of society through political means or through political science.
Can you please repeat, Anand?
What I'm saying is, if it is not desirable, it is possible but not desirable that it is value free or neutral, because if there is no value, then the positive aspect of it is removed or reduced, and then its social implications are hindered in the sense that the well-being is stopped or it becomes stagnant over time.
True. What you are saying is, if I understand correctly, that inevitably, some way or the other, there would be a value to whatever we are speaking
Yes.
about. Because if we
Yes.
don't create a value for it, we will not be able to realize the potential of its productivity, the potential of its capacity, potential of its capability. That's one. What my approach and what we are trying to do here is that just try to understand or read anything without any positive or negative judgment. Just try to see it the way it is. I know inevitably we all end up being value judgmental about anything that is around us. The weather is nice, the weather is good, it's very humid, it's raining a lot. I mean, inevitably, I mean, these are all human capabilities and human capacity, right? As Dikshita is mentioning here, it is a question of fact rather than moral judgment. Yeah, quite right, actually. It's not just about moral, ethical, as already mentioned in the slide before, the primary focus is still more about facts. And how closer are we to the facts? The problem these days, as you know, with media houses, all these media, the way they present and project the news, how closer they are to the facts or how factual they are. That's very important. But they are not. That's a fact. I mean, all media houses are biased some way or the other. I think we mentioned this yesterday in the class. I don't know, was it in the class with you or also in other classes? I did mention about this, that how much anything could be value free or not, right? And how neutral they are, and in which way are they neutral? That's the point. How neutral they are, and in which way are they neutral? And what is this about neutrality? Yes, actually, this reminds me. Yesterday, I was doing this with your juniors in public administration. We did this topic on neutral bureaucracy, right? So when we were doing this topic on neutral bureaucracy in public administration, you remember that. That's when I had brought this up. How much possible it is to create something as neutral entirely. And in fact, what you have said, Anand, will be kind of proved or disproved via comparative politics. It will be proved or disproved via comparative politics. Proved or disproved as in, yes, it is possible to create, and how are we doing it? Through various approaches or methods. That's the main point, right? The third part, actually, origins of comparative politics. That's how comparisons already started in the history of political theory. Deekshita, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Can you read this, please?
Yes, sir. Origins of comparative politics. Plato and Aristotle, while usually considered political theorists, were engaged in the process of comparing different political regimes: aristocracy, oligarchy, democracy, and tyranny.
Exactly. We will do Plato and Aristotle in detail in the next semester. But this is to state as a matter of fact. Now you see, again, I'm using that word here. As a matter of fact, one can't deny that, yes, it already started with, more precisely, Aristotle, the father of political science. I have talked about Aristotle many times with all of you. Aristotle is the father of political science. His entire political theory is built upon a comparison of more than 200 constitutions or something, or so many manuscripts of that Greek era, and also other civilizations and other, by the time the Greek era was already grown. We will see that. Okay, aristocracy, oligarchy, democracy, tyranny. So you know, it's like quite complementary. There is a big complementary relationship between comparative politics and political science, right? That's one. So this is one historical angle to it. What is the modern angle to it? That's the ancient angle to it. There is a modern angle to it as well. Avni, can you please read? Unmute yourself. I know you are the only offline student, but then, so that everyone can hear.
Organize of the comparative politics. Modern comparative politics can be traced back to, among others,
Machiavelli,
the Prince of 1532,
Montesquieu,
on the Spirit of the Laws, 1748, Alex de Tocqueville on Democracy in America, 1835.
Thank you. So this is, so if you remember in the beginning of the lecture, I had already mentioned to you the focus, the science, and the history of it. So this is the third part, which is the historical approach to it. Ancient is already Plato and Aristotle. Modern is already these people, these thinkers here. So again, we will do them next semester in detail, but briefly, Machiavelli, in respect to medieval Italy, because see, all of their political theories were important because of comparison. That is the simple way. I'll repeat it. That is the simple way to understand what is exactly being done right now here in this lecture. Why this history, comparative, all this, etc., is because these people became important because of comparison. That's why Aristotle, father of political science, other important political theorists, etc., etc. I mean, Why? Tocqueville on democracy in America. Why? They were doing so many kinds of comparisons. They were and comparisons within a system as well. So basically, let's say if we expand comparative methodology, that leads on to become what is comparative government. As I told you in the beginning of the lecture, government and politics stays the same. Instead of the word Indian, we use the word comparative. Okay, and that's why we are expanding the comparative methodology onto these perspectives, right? There is one more approach that I will talk about, because then I will not introduce a lot of, I will complete this rest of the presentation tomorrow. But there is one more approach so that you know, so that you are already kind of familiar with, okay, so enough talking about the word methods and methodology, but what are those methods? What are these methods of comparison that it includes? Formal, legal, institutional approach. That's where law comes into the picture. You see? Especially first half of 20th century, emerging discipline of pol science focused on these formal legal institutions. Even pol science, the nature of the subject and the discipline changed itself over a period of time, over decades and decades, and especially 20th century. 20th century has really, I mean, I know 21st century, we still have 20 years. This is 2021. But this last century, 1900s, you can imagine all that, because that was a very important year for so many things, including the development of these disciplines. And that's why first half means prior to 1950, especially that period between the two world wars, First World War, Second World War, in between. It really focused strongly on formal. They were really concerned about state, and how do we develop the state? What are the parts of the state? What are the figments of the state? I'll explain that and complete the other approaches as well. What is political behavior? What is political culture? What was the reaction against behavioral revolution? What do these mean? So they are not very difficult if you just concentrate. And then we are also talking about institutions and actors in order to complete all this that we will do tomorrow when we talk about that. So that will complete one part of what exactly is comparative politics. It is also already giving us hints on nature of comparative politics, scope of comparative politics, methods and approaches of comparison. It is addressing many themes at the same time. So don't think this one and only the first talk. It's not like that. Each one will be addressing so many other things at the same time. How to organize them in thought and action, that I will help you out. So don't worry about that. Any of you. Don't have to worry. So I hope you were able to figure out what we did today. Yes? So, okay, thankfully we have a question again, but maybe I'll read it out and maybe we can start this as point of discussion for tomorrow's class. Are we also going to compare our media houses to the... Yes, Yashi, I think yesterday I was discussing this in class. We don't have it as part of curriculum because comparative till now has not developed a theory about it. But we will discuss it in class. We will otherwise discuss it in class. Generally, it will come up. Okay. Media houses to the ones outside the country. Yes. Many times there have been similarities seen, but there have been different.
Media and politics.
Yeah, media
So
and
most of the time they both are parallel. They both are overlapping.
True.
Media and politics.
True. We will bring this up as a point of discussion for sure. But in tomorrow's class. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Good you asked me, because yesterday we were talking about it when we were discussing other units of this. Probably, if not in the first unit, we can definitely talk about it in other units. Let me just quickly take your attendance. Anand,
Present, sir.
Yashi,
Present, sir.
Ram,
Yes, sir. Present.
Avni, okay, Dikshita, Manas,
Present, sir.
Tushar,
Present, sir.
Vanshika,
Yes, sir.
Shreya,
Present, sir.
Brijen.
Present, sir.
क्लास शुरू होने के 10-15 मिनट में आपका भी नाम बोला था मैंने. You have to be alert next time, Brijen. I called your name out twice.
Sir,
एक second, Dikshita, I'm just
sir,
talking to Brijen.
Dikshit.
Okay, fine, you are present. ठीक है, Brijen.
Yes, sir.
हाँ, केवल login नहीं होगा. Otherwise, you guys have to listen. And now there are PPTs also. But ऐसा नहीं है कि login करके. I hope you understand. शुरुआत है तो फिर वीडियोस ऑन करवाने हैं सबके, बिना उसके अटेंडेंस की नहीं देगी. पूरी क्लास में यू ऑल हैव टू कीप योर वीडियोस. आरिफ,
Yes, sir. I'm present.
अदिति,
Present, sir.
निधि,
Yes, sir, present.
गौरी,
Yes, sir.
anyone else? Yes, Dikshita, you are present.
I actually had a doubt, sir.
You have a question to ask.
Am I audible?
Yes, you can ask
Yes,
it, but
sir.
we can discuss it only tomorrow with everyone. Can you save it for tomorrow otherwise? Hello.
Yeah, sir, I'll ask it tomorrow, no problem.
Yes, please. Remind me, we'll start with the
I
question.
will ask it tomorrow, sir. I'll ask the question.
Yeah,
tomorrow.
sure. Also, Yashi has a question, had a question, and we will bring them up in tomorrow's lecture. Fine. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Take care, all of you. Have a nice day.